Hey everybody, what's up? Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association presents to you Reasonable Doubt, here with the big not guilty winner, the big 2020, the gunman, the man who defied all odds and kicked the district attorney's ass on the first go around, Ronnie Yeates. How you doing, Ronnie?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me here tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you. And as always, Justin Harris, how are you, sir?
Good, just always temporarily.
Well.
Looking forward to getting back in there right next to Mark.
I agree. Out there with Houston media source Mark Pirtle. How you doing? Awesome.
I am well.
So for those who don't know Ronnie, Ronnie has been an attorney here in town for a minute, and I first actually ran across you when you were doing you still are, but doing gun trial. I knew you as the gun guy, as the guy who could, if somebody wanted to form a gun trust or things like that, you were the guy to go to. Is that right? Am I right?
There's a couple lawyers in Houston that did them. Sean Cody was one of them. He passed away a year or two ago. He was like the main guy in Houston. He and I were like that. But yeah, I've been doing it for probably close to a decade now.
Let me ask you about the gun trust. And so a lot of individuals think that government's going to come take our guns, and which I thought so too. But also, if you wanted to own some cool stuff, you could form these entities or through the law and lawfully able to handle them. Is that right? Not necessarily own them, but like use and enjoy them, maybe.
Well, really, the basis for a trust is, as an individual, if you want to, you can go buy if you can buy a gun, you can go buy a silencer, you can buy a machine gun, you can buy a sawed-off shotgun. You can make these things too, not the machine gun, but you can make a silencer, you can make a sawed-off shotgun as an individual. The benefit of the trust is as an individual, you have to complete forms with the federal government to make these things. There's the tax forms that you have to do. And before 2016, there was the ability to use a trust where only one person would have to complete this paperwork, the trustee. Anyone else in there who's a co-trustee didn't. The feds changed that regulation. Now, anyone who's a responsible person has to. But the benefit of a trust is like, I'm married. I can go down and I can buy a silencer. It's perfectly legal for me to get it. I have to wait 9 months after I do paperwork because that's how long it takes for the process. But if I'm driving around in my car and I have a silencer in my glove box and my wife drops me off at Academy and she tools off, as an individual, I've been approved to possess that thing. I've been approved. If she gets stopped or gets in a wreck and they find that thing, it's a third-degree felony in Texas.
Oh, wow.
She has a prohibited weapon. It's also against federal law. The trust allows she and I to share that item and possess it together. And so if people come to me and ask, I have two questions for them. One, are you married? Two, do you want to share it?
Are there limitations to who can be a part of the trust that can possess those items?
Yeah, you have to be a certain age, just like your age to possess a handgun or a long gun. You have to be a certain age. But the big thing is you can't be a prohibited person under 922. So the easiest thing is if anyone's bought a gun, you fill out that 4473 form. It's the background check. And you have to say, no, I'm not a convicted felon. No, I'm not charged with a felony. No, I've not been convicted of this. No, I've not done that. I'm not, mentally incapable. All those questions. If you're a prohibited person, you can't possess the item, period, anyway.
Period at all.
Yeah.
And are there limitations to the? So what happens when you die and your wife dies, and then you got this like rocket or cool gun what happens there, right?
It all depends on how you have it set up. I don't do estate planning, anything like that. In a trust, I tell people basically a trust isn't designed to be, it's not designed to be like a will to say, hey, this goes to you, this goes to you, this goes to you. You can do that in one. But most of them are set up for the benefit of children or a beneficiary. And so the way the trust is set up is if, my wife and I die, I have guardians set up in there. So the same guardians I have in my will for my kids, they take over as trustee for the benefit of my kids. And so, arguably they could sell the items If it's a transferable machine gun or something like that, it's best not to, because those only go up in value. Because in 1986, no more could be transferred. No more can be made that's transferred. So it's a limited supply.
Talk to us about that. What does that mean? Yes, because I've read this or heard this. What does that mean?
Okay, so in May of 1986, Ronald Reagan signed in the Gun Control Act, and that made all machine guns from then forward illegal for an individual to own. It has to be pre-86 registered.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the 1934 NFA Act basically made anybody who wanted short barrel shotgun, short barrel rifle, and any other weapon like a cane gun or a pin gun, machine guns, illegal.
A what gun or a pin gun?
A cane gun.
Like the ones that you like this one, right? Like Liberty, like come and take it. Like, oh, that's a cannon.
Like an actual cane.
Like a walking cane?
Yes.
I've seen one at
What
the
do you do
FBI.
with a walking cane that's a gun?
You assassinate. You like super secret
You use it
agent.
if you need it.
Oh, you kill people.
Yes.
They're not for hunting.
Oh no.
No,
They
no.
only serve the purpose of taking out other human beings.
And squirrels.
Or squirrels.
Squirrels, okay.
You
I use a
walk in
410. I use a 410 or a 22 for squirrel. Okay, go ahead.
You're walking in the park, squirrels looking at you funny. Pop.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Especially if
Okay.
it's silencer on it. They won't even hear it.
So so does that apply to machine guns you make yourself? Because people I hear make
That's
machine-
illegal. It's a different kind of
I
illegal.
can make a machine gun because I have the license. I'm what's called an 0702 FFL. So I have a license to deal and manufacture in NFA items and regular firearms. So I can make a machine gun. I can make a silencer. I can make any of that stuff. The only thing I don't have a license for is for explosives or destructive devices. So I can't possess like plastic explosives or blasting caps or anything like that. But
C4?
if it's a firearm, I can make it or possess it.
Well, you're not
Yeah.
telling us you make firearms. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can make guns and stuff. I mean, it's nothing. It's a little. You drill a hole in a rifle, an AR-15. You make a machine gun out of it.
He's like looking around, like I've got like 4 of them. Like
I've
here,
got-
I made this.
Yeah,
What do you, so what do you got down there, man? What do you got?
I got all kinds of stuff.
No,
Here,
no.
since we're talking about that,
So a silencer, it's not like on TV, right? It's not just like a little poof, poof, like because you got the chamber and it's still you can still hear more than like TV makes it seem, right?
it depends. Yes, nothing's like movie silent. The closest thing you get to movie silent is a 22.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty silent.
22 round. 45 is actually pretty quiet because that's a subsonic round by itself. It doesn't break the sound barrier. So you get a big enough silencer for that. I mean, pretty much most silencers make things hearing safe, and that's the reason for them.
Right.
Like I've built short barrel rifles for my kids, 22s, and I put silencers on them. So when we go to the range, we don't have to wear these big headphone things.
Yeah.
I can tell them, stop that, do this, do that. And they can hear me without having to take things off.
And you have like tools for this?
For
Like to make a silencer?
It doesn't take a lot to make a silencer, really.
You can go on YouTube, JV, and see how that stuff. I looked into that because I'm not gonna lie. After I watched Shooter, I was like, I'm gonna go tape a 2-liter bottle to my 22 and just see what that does. And it didn't
what
do
about like when
anything.
you put a pillow?
They put a hole in the 22,
Well,
or put
I
a
mean,
hole in the 2-liter
technically
bottle.
What you do is you use a 1 liter bottle, stuff it with cotton or fiberglass, and put duct tape on the end. So when you shoot it, it seals the chamber.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just did it Mark Wahlberg style. I just took an empty bottle, taped it onto the end, the muzzle, and shot it. And I was like, oh, now I got all this damn tape on my muzzle.
That is a 3rd-degree felony in Texas just by doing it.
I did that like 5 or 7 or 10 years ago.
You did it 11 years ago. I
Yeah.
know it. So
Are you familiar with the like? So I assume do you need a license to carry when you are a qualified individual to own and deal firearms?
So technically, I can carry pretty much anything that I want with me. It should be in the line of my business. So I'm not really supposed to drive around with machine guns in my car. I'm not going to get in trouble for it because I have the license to do it.
Right.
but it's
Well,
supposed to
you're a
be,
lawyer also.
yeah, it's supposed to be for purposes of business. So I'm
Not the business of law, the business of making
guns.
guns. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, war
That's
game.
so awesome. That is
So
How many times have you had to use one?
on what?
Not hunting. Not
You got to
hunting.
talk to his lawyer about that. Kidding.
Not hunting.
I
Not
use them-
hunting animals.
Man, I grew up in the country, so I grew up shooting everything.
Well, I don't mean that. That's my use and exposure with guns is running around in the woods with a 22 or a shotgun
never
or
had
whatever.
to use them to defend myself. The most, I hunt, I plink, I shoot with the kids at the range, but I've never had to use them to defend myself.
Oops, that's me. I have to turn the sound off. Sorry. Okay, go.
Do you have you ever had a gun pulled on you by someone else?
Yeah.
Did you have your gun on you?
No, I was about 14 in somebody's property.
Oh.
Yeah, we were swimming in their pool and they didn't like it.
Well, okay, wait. That's when they. Yeah. Well.
And
2 times when I've been doing investigations, I've had guns pulled on me as a lawyer. And the other people who were with me were like, oh man, I wish I had my gun. And I was the one in the front. And I was like, what the hell would you have done if you'd had your gun? They're like, oh, I would have used it. And I was like, and I would have gotten shot. Like, I'm so glad you didn't have your gun on you.
Well, I can tell you this much. Before I became a private attorney, I was a prosecutor. And when I first
Where was that?
do what?
Where were you a prosecutor?
I was a prosecutor in Grimes County. I was there for about 16 years, almost 17 years.
Are
Okay.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, wow, that's cool. All right.
So the first, probably the first decade or so, man, I used to go with the sheriff's department and clear houses on search warrants.
Wow.
Yeah,
Would you wear a bulletproof vest?
yeah,
You mean you have to?
yeah. I did all that stuff. And now there's a couple times almost shot some dogs, but you find out real quickly the ones on the leash are usually nice. They just kind of stop at the end of the leash and then start panting.
Wow.
But you get a 100-pound dog running at you.
That's scary, man.
It's scary.
Have you ever done when someone like pulls a gun out and the crocodile Dundee, like, that's not a knife. It's a knife. You know?
What does that is the big nickel-plated 44 Magnum. That's what does that.
Nice.
Yeah, and I got one of those too. But you have to have the big Smith and Wesson. You have to have that.
Are there, other than for the normal individual, not a dealer or such, for the normal individual, are there limitations as to what that, if they get it's a stamp? Is it a tax stamp? Is that right?
It's a tax stamp, and technically, I've got some pending cases in Harris County, but they don't like when I come in and explain stuff to them. So,
The DAs?
yes, with the tax stamp. So, as an individual or a trust, you have to apply for a Form 1 or a Form 4. A Form 1 is to make an item. A Form 4 is an application for transfer. So, if I go down to a gun shop and I say, hey, I want to buy that thing, I have to pay for them for the item. Then I have to pay $200 for the short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, machine gun, silencer, for those items. If it's any other weapon, which are designed to be concealed, those are like a pen gun, stuff like that. That's a $5 tax stamp. Unless you're making it, then it's $200. But once you get that paperwork, legally the only people you're required to show that to is an ATF agent under the federal code, because it's a tax document.
Sure.
Okay. Makes sense.
And a good friend of mine, he actually worked on changing the knife law too, but the prohibited weapon charge.
Yeah.
Before, it was a defense you had to raise. Now the state has to prove you're illegally possessing the item.
Interesting.
So it's changed. But yeah, if you have the paperwork with you, like if I do a trust or if they're just an individual, I tell them, I keep copies of all my trusts with me when I have the guns. I keep my trust and I keep a copy of the tax stamps. That way, if I do get pulled over, I'm just not telling them, hey, I'm supposed to have this.
Yeah.
I can show them the paperwork.
Yeah.
But you're not really required to show it to them. But, it's the whole beat the rapper ride thing.
Right.
No.
Like, no, when the cop says, is that your blowtorch or is that your bazooka in the back? I'm going to say, I got the papers.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to show them my papers too and be like, I got papers too, cop. Like, relax.
I'm good. I got this gold card says I can do it.
Yeah.
So,
So what do you got around? See over here. Let me show you. Since we're talking about weapons and such, I have my sword. So this is what I call the sword of justice. If you see, it's some good like carvings and such in it.
what kind
You
of
thought the Renaissance Festival,
considered a
didn't you?
rapier?
Say,
What is that considered, a rapier?
hey,
Yeah, it
look,
looks like it.
I plead the fifth.
I got this.
You can walk down the street with that now.
Hey, I swear I will.
$7.99 at Harbor Freight.
Well,
Doesn't have
what
the
you got
reach.
around there, man? Show us something cool. You got something in your
Yeah,
house?
what you got?
This is what I use this to explain to people. So most people
This is
know
a
what an
demonstrative.
AR-15 is. So this is an AR-15. But this is not a rifle. This is built as a pistol. Okay, because it has what's called a brace. This is not designed to be fired from the shoulder. It's designed to be fired with one hand, like a handgun. Okay?
Interesting.
I could take this, put this upper on it, and it's still a pistol. Okay.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But if you have this in your car, it has to be concealed unless you have a license to carry. If you have a
Sure.
license to carry, it has to be concealed unless you have it in a holster, because it's a handgun.
Okay. Let me
Okay.
ask you: are there any exceptions to walking into one of them 51% like a bar with a weapon? Like if you have a concealed handgun, is it a misdemeanor?
Oh, it's a felony.
A straight felony, like regardless if you have papers or no papers.
It's straight to felony.
Interesting.
Yep. And so that's a handgun. So the difference between this and this is this has a stock on it. This is designed to be shot from the shoulder. Okay?
Wait, I see it. I see it. Oh, look at that.
Okay?
Are those
I got you.
removable and interchangeable?
They are. But as soon as you put this, the top stock on this, you've now created a short barrel rifle, which is a third-degree felony.
Just on its own.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So you
So
put
you're
upper on it, you have a rifle, and you are breaking the law.
So a concealed handgun owner is going to want to have the one that they can carry that's still a pistol.
Right. Right.
Interesting.
And so here's a rifle.
Yeah.
And then this trumps everything. This is a machine gun.
But I can have the machine gun as a finger trigger, as a pistol.
Can you tell the difference?
Yes. Yes.
You
Well,
can
not
tell-
really. No.
No.
No. The answer is no.
So let me show
Right.
you the difference. What you can tell is right here. You see how it's just plain?
Yeah.
Okay.
See how that one has a third pin?
Yes.
That has a sear in it, an auto sear. So that's a machine gun.
We're talking auto machine gun.
Yeah, this is machine
Wow.
gun.
Like not even like bump.
No, this is a machine gun.
That's incredible, man.
So that's a machine gun. So that's the difference. The first one was a pistol. The second was a rifle. That's a machine gun. They all look alike. And so
Yeah.
when the cops pull you over, more than likely they're not going to know that's a machine gun. And they're
Right.
not
Nobody's
gonna
going to know.
This is a short barrel rifle.
So how are you?
You heard it here first on Reasonable Doubt.
No, but I mean, so yeah. So how are you when he's like, okay, that's a machine gun? And you're like, no, it's a pistol.
So, well, the machine gun, here's the even scarier thing. You don't even have to have that pin. There's parts that go in there, like what's called a lightning link. It's basically a flat piece of metal, basically looks like a cut off piece of dipstick on it. And you can put that in there and it acts as a sear. So it bypasses the whole device. And that goes inside the gun. You'll never even see that unless you're shooting the gun. You won't even know it's there.
Sure.
And you can buy those. They made those, and there was a lot registered before 1986. But if you want to buy a transferable, let's say you want to go buy a transferable one of those, you're looking at about 16 grand.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like a DeLorean or like old cars that aren't being made anymore. Or
Right.
But you can modify the semi-automatic, right?
You cannot make a full auto. You
Wow.
can't do it.
By law, but I'm talking
By
about
law, you're not
ability.
supposed to.
Well,
But could someone who knows how that stuff works, or someone who can watch YouTube well enough, can you cut off a dipstick and put it in there and make the semi-auto full auto?
I can make a trip sear out of a coat hanger.
So you can make a semi-auto into a full auto illegally. And we're not giving legal advice of things to do. We're saying don't do this at home.
Yeah, but you're a dealer.
Yeah.
I can make one out of a coat hanger.
The average citizen,
and you can
if
do
they
it
did that, they would be breaking the law.
And I could do it lawfully. Actually, if somebody wanted to, like, you can't make a machine gun. I know people who have registered shoestrings as machine guns.
Because they tie it around their shoulder.
You tie it to your belt, you hold it out, and when you shoot the gun, it works the same purpose as a bump stock.
Like a bump stop.
The recoil.
Oh, I see.
But that was someone like I can do that. So there's another machine gun. That's a Mac 11.
Oh, look at that.
That bends around. That's got a brace behind it, right?
And you got like a
folds around.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
what kind of bullets does that shoot?
9mm.
9 millimeters.
So that's like you're gonna have to at least shoot me like 12 times for that one.
Actually, here's something scary for you though. When I don't
all
know
this is scary.
Mess with the ballistics expert.
Sure, talk to us.
So I'm gonna kind of probably ruffle feathers here
Talk to us.
on 45 caliber, 9mm, and all that stuff. Growing up, 45 was like the end all be all. That's like the gun that kills everything because it's a big old round. Well, some murder cases we had up there in Grimes County, I got to talking with the ballistics experts, and a couple of them went to trial, but 9mm actually does a heck of a lot more damage than a 45. If you think about it, the round is just going through you, right? So by the time the hollow point opens up, it's almost all about your body. What the 9mm does, it's the velocity. So if you ever shoot like ballistics gel, you can see it goes in and it goes like that. It's the velocity. So you shoot a 45 round, it's doing 700, 800 feet per second. Well, a 9mm is doing 1,200 or so.
Oh, wow.
So when it goes through, it opens up and it's just pulling, a vacuum as it goes through. 9mm does a lot of damage.
Really?
And you can fit a lot more in a magazine.
Yeah.
So they're just better. So like this
or worse.
This is a Glock.
Is that a silencer?
A suppressor?
Yeah, that's a silencer.
I've never seen one other than like in Steven Seagal movies and stuff.
Watch.
This is a registered short barrel rifle. Okay. So it has a stock built onto it.
Why is it because of the stock?
Because it has now been redesigned to be fired from the shoulder.
Awesome.
It is now a rifle.
And
short barrel rifle, which you can't carry in a car lawfully.
Well, and you can only put. Wait, say that again, Justin.
Short barrel. Legally? What's the difference for the average citizen between a long rifle and a short barrel rifle?
It's been approved by the ATF for you to have it. But other than that, there's nothing different. You can, just like in Texas, you can walk down the road with a shotgun or a rifle. You can do the same thing with a short barrel rifle. It's just a rifle that's been approved by
a pistol, you would need a license to carry.
Correct.
So if you took that stock off, you couldn't walk down the street with it unless you have a license.
Correct.
So what if you carry the stock in your back pocket and the police come along and you attach it on there? Separating the two, does that give you any legal distinction?
That's what I was saying. You could just pull it out, right? Pull it out, put it in.
It does to some degree. Federal law and some state laws said that you have constructive possession, especially federal law, where they come in and you have you got all these basically rifle lowers and no long uppers, and so but you have all these short ones, with these short barrels.
Right.
They're going to come in and look, hey, these look a lot like short barrel rifles. You've got nothing to make a pistol.
Okay.
But Texas law is different. They don't look at it under constructive. It's the feds look at it that way. And
it's black and white in Texas, and there's shades of gray in the feds.
Yeah.
When it comes to stuff like that, yeah.
You're like the real, Nicolas Cage. You've seen Lord of War.
Mm-hmm.
This is the man can deal in arms and lawful. That's awesome.
I don't think Nicolas Cage was doing it lawfully, or his character.
What is that? Was that a pin gun?
No, this is a little 22 Beretta.
That's amazing.
With a silencer on it.
I mean, is it like a black cat going off with a silencer?
It's a little bit louder than that.
Shoot it.
Oh no.
It's a little bit louder than that. But here's one of the fun ones. I like this one. Everyone gets a kick out of this.
Nice. I've seen
Is
that
that
like
Thompson? What is that?
No,
I saw them on the movie
this is a
Cyborg.
1940 Savage 720 shotgun. It's 12 gauge.
Wow.
Oh.
So okay,
Handgun Bonnie and Clyde had.
how
How do you rack it? Or oh, it looks like the guns got Andrew Wright in a little sooner.
yeah, Andrew Wright wants to come in. He likes guns.
He's got to
Judge
throw his
Wright.
guns around too.
Judge,
So
where you at?
while we're waiting for Judge Wright to join, Ronnie, I got an old 22 Savage that my grandfather traded to some guy during the Depression for a bag of flour, and I can't get the little place where the bolt for the stock attaches to the barrel to the upper. It's worn down. Can I show that to you at some point and send you some pictures and you tell me if you can work on it for me?
Yeah, if not, I definitely can find somebody who can.
I don't, because the one place I took it out in Magnolia, ATK, they were like, let's just replace the whole barrel, but it's got more sentimental value than anything else.
Yeah, I can. If I can't do it, I can definitely find somebody who can.
Okay. The gunsmith who was going to do it died, so
Hey,
I need
well,
somebody else. All right, I'll
Judge,
send you pictures of it. Hey, Judge, how's it going?
we talking
Yo.
guns,
Are you in
Judge?
the courtroom? I know that's how sometimes you
No.
dress in the courtroom, but it's hard to tell.
Hey, it's playoff season, baby.
Ain't that the truth?
That's truth.
Hey, look. So we're talking.
We're
guns,
advancing.
trucks,
Go
and guns and
Stros.
silencers and such. Yeah,
I don't know anything about guns. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying. Hey, did you go hunting this weekend?
I did. I got skunked. We got a coyote, and that was it. No dove. The only two dove I saw missed, and I don't think it was cold enough for those birds to be moving yet. They're probably all up in North Texas and Oklahoma.
Well, have you seen
Not moved in
Ronnie's?
quite yet.
Have you seen Ronnie's short barrel 12 gauge?
I just,
know that
show 'em
Ronnie
the
has
thing. The thing-
quite the.
I just showed him an
Arsenal.
old Savage 720 I have.
Is that a pump action? How do you
it's a
rack one in
semi-auto.
the chamber?
The semi-auto.
okay.
You load them in the bottom.
How many
Okay.
that hold? Six shot.
3. No
Is
more
that
than
it?
3.
I know Andrew's about to say it's a Browning. So back in the day,
It doesn't look like a Browning. It looks like a Browning A5.
that's exactly what it kind of is. So Browning leased their patent out to Remington during the war to make guns. And then they also did it to Savage.
Mm.
And so that's a Savage 720. Remington did model 14. I used to have one of those too. It was 1915 model or something like that. But the Savage 720 is like a knockoff of the Remington, which is a knockoff of the Browning, but they're all based on the same patent. So
And you need a license to carry the sawed-off shotgun or the short barrel.
I actually
yeah, you don't have to have a license. You can file it's just like buying a silencer.
an
You can
SBR. You have to
file
have a
the
tax
paperwork
stamp.
to make it, or you can file the paperwork to buy one.
It takes about 8 to 9 months.
If you buy something, when I tell people as far as like a short barrel rifle or something like that, if you're gonna get one, it's faster to make it because you can e-file the paperwork online with the ATF, and the turnaround on that's about 2 weeks. If you go buy it from a shop, it's going to take 9 months to a
All it
year.
does is, and if you make it, all it does is cost you your thumbs.
So You're
Okay.
right.
We've talked about guns for half the show. We're getting the comments on the Facebook. We need to change to let's talk about some law.
okay,
All right. I loved it. I love the stuff about the guns and the gun trusts and the law. I think it's awesome. We have Ronnie who picked up the big not guilty coming on, and we have Judge Wright who sat a jury. I'd love to get two perspectives. Ronnie, so when you went to NRG, what time was jury selection? What time you show up?
well, when we went the Friday before or the Thursday before and took a tour. Kind of scoped everything out, saw the pavilion, the 3 halls and stuff. And then the judges wanted us to start at 9. And so we got there. I got there extremely early. And so I started talking with the clerks and the jury people over there, and they said they actually cut bringing people off at 9. So we wouldn't get a jury till after 9. So they bring everybody in, about 9 qualified them, and then they send them off to their happy, merry way. So we ended up starting about, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there. So
were you now?
What was the case?
mine was a DWI second,
Okay. And who was the judge? What court was it?
Singer in 14.
Oh, that's right.
Were
What'd your panel look like?
Yeah, talk to us about your panel. What did the panel look like?
It
was
looked good. You
like-
got a not guilty, right?
I got an instructed verdict, not guilty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was an instructed verdict. I think Judge Wright's was an instructed verdict too. So
That-
all 3 of them so far I know of that have been tried down there have been instructed verdicts. So
What was the issue? Would they not offer any evidence on?
well, I got the officer to actually testify that my guy wasn't showing any signs of mental or physical loss. I asked him if he knew what the definition of intoxicated was. He didn't know. So I explained to him what the definition was. And then I asked him about my guy, if he looked intoxicated. Did he look like he had loss of his mental faculties? No. Did he look like he had his loss of any physical faculties? No.
Pass.
So
Okay, you're welcome for that because I did not have one go my way in Singer's court when I had the exact same testimony, and he wouldn't give me an instructed verdict.
well, but I'm going to tell you this much: we did a suppression hearing at the onset. Well, let me answer your question about the jury real quick.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, let's do that.
We had 30 people come in.
I like Judge Singer. I don't want to go back any more of that conversation I started.
Oh no, I mean we worked to get that. We worked to get that directed verdict. Our panel was 30 people. We had 2 blacks. I want to say 3 Hispanics and 1 Indian, like a Indian, and then the rest were white.
It was only one kind of Indian. But wait, so you had 5 non-white people on a panel of 30?
5 or 6, yeah.
And the rest
Wow.
were and the rest
I've never
were
seen that in
Caucasian?
Harris County. That's like a Montgomery County or maybe
Yes.
even a Fort Bend County jury.
Yeah, it was pretty light.
So Rob Fickman brought up 2 misdemeanor verdicts do not indicate that the process is sound.
No, not at all. I agree with that
Right. So
completely,
let's
Rob.
talk about that. I mean, you got a good verdict, but so you to repeat, you said there were maybe 5 or 6 non-white. Wow.
Non-white, non-Hispanic. Yeah.
Did you think about filing?
Let's
Did you all
crunch
file
some
for
numbers real
motions on it?
quick.
I filed the big 30-page motion for continuance.
Uh-huh.
I argued that up and down the Monday before. It didn't get
That
me
works in a county that's 86% white, and that's not Harris County. You'll have to excuse me 1 second. I got to go do something real quick.
So I didn't win. I didn't win the continuance. I re-urged everything when we got there. I didn't win it there, and we just teed it up.
Judge Wright, what was your experience with the veneer panel? Good cross-section of the community? What was it? I mean, talk to us about it.
So mine wasn't that disparate. Mine was actually probably more realistic to Harris County. I would say it was probably a little less diverse than what you'd find prior to Rona in Harris County, but I actually had a good, pretty diverse panel. I was concerned that there wouldn't be the adequate cross-section of Harris County, but my experience thus far, I didn't have the same experience as Mr. Yeates. And actually, we've actually talked about that since that happened, because I was curious if he shared a similar experience than I did, and he told me that his was not diverse. I actually I didn't look at the exact numbers. I mean, I probably could scratch it together, but I had quite a bit more. And I don't with exact numbers because I don't want to be wrong or be quoted wrong, but I did not have that experience. I expected some big problems with that, and that's not what I saw.
Were there any? Were there any issues?
Different.
Were there any issues with turnout? Like if you had busted that panel, could you have gotten another?
I don't think so. So, I mean, like, so you guys see it from the attorney angle, but I could tell you that Harris County is trying to only call the jury panels when they're needed. So, like a couple weeks prior on the 11th, I was set to go to trial, and then there was an issue where one of the attorneys involved in my case had a medical procedure and like was needing to recuperate at home. So we actually rescheduled till the same day as Mr. Yeates' trial. But we like let them know that Thursday afternoon, and I was told in some different terms that essentially that wasn't cool for us to cancel, because then they had to scramble to basically let all the people know not to be there. It's not like the old days where if you don't have that panel, there's some other judge sitting there screaming, "Where's my panel?" and like uses that panel. They're pretty much only bringing people for when they need them. So I don't think it's going to be one of those scenarios where if you don't get one, or if you bust that panel, you can be like, fine, just send me another one. Mr. Yeates is correct. They're only calling them, I think, by 9. They had told me different prior to that. But when I got there, I talked to some people after Mr. Yeates told me that, and I had a similar experience that we were waiting for a little bit. But I think that's just kind of the name of the game as it relates to waiting on juries in this business. But you can't just be like, oh, okay, we didn't get one, bring us another one. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it was about what 9:15, 9:20, or 8:15, 8:20. I decided to go out there and look because we were supposed to start at 9. And in the big general assembly area where they got the big projectors and stuff, when I got there about 8:15, 8:20, I looked over. There's like 13 people there. And I'm like,
Well, like
let's get
at the 13 people, like in the panel, like in the pool that you thought
waiting.
total. And so about 9 o'clock, I think they only brought in, because you had 30 and I had 30. So if we were to bust a panel, they would be done. You wouldn't do anything else that day.
If you bust a panel that day, that you're probably just going to have to come back another day, and who knows, given how long it is to schedule these things and stuff. But I do want to make something abundantly clear. So in Mr. Yeates' post, his compatriot, Mr. Thiessen, indicated that they picked the first criminal jury trial since COVID in Harris County. That is not accurate. My jury was seated prior to Mr. Yeates. He did get the first verdict because they went on Monday. We had some witness issues, went on Tuesday. But my jury panel was the first picked.
It wasn't paneled prior because I saw him coming over to watch us. But that's because I think he got the first 30. And facts are fact.
And hey, that might be the case, but let's just be abundantly clear that I beat you on that.
What one of the thoughts that's been echoed is did your clients, or could you say if your clients wanted to waive any sort of issues and
before we get into that, or along with that, Ronnie, was your client in custody or on bond?
Oh, he's free world.
What about Judge Wright? Was that defendant in custody or on bond?
No, he was on bond. The defendant was on bond. Yeah.
Okay, so now JV, dovetail into yours.
Well, I know that did your client want to go to trial? Was he like, let's have the trial, and we're like, let's do this, or how did that happen?
So I had a long conversation, and the case was about 2 years old. He wanted to get it done, but he didn't want to go to trial because I explained to him what's going on right now, and he's Hispanic, so he was concerned.
Cross-section of the
representative cross-section of the populace, and so he wanted me to argue the continuance, and I did unsuccessfully. But he was ready to go, but he would prefer to wait a little while. So.
And you're in the trial, were the litigants in front of you, Judge Wright? Were they ready and willing to go? Was that in that kind of scenario?
So I didn't have. I kind of, between you and I, have had other trial settings with other lawyers. I kind of expected some of that. No, I had none of that. In fact, the 2 weeks prior, one of the attorneys had some medical procedure, but they were like, "Hey, we could still go tomorrow." And out of abundance of caution, I said, "Hey, let's just wait 2 weeks and give you a chance to recover, because I don't want to be responsible for any setbacks with that medical stuff." Luckily, there were no issues. 2 weeks later, the attorney was just fine. but I did not hear any objections or anything saying like prior or because of Rona or because of cross section, any of these things that we've heard over the last 6 months in Texas and in the criminal justice center of the criminal world. I didn't hear any of that. They were ready to go. I had no issues with the state. I will tell you that when we couldn't go because of the medical issue, I think at some point shortly thereafter, the defense said, well, we'll be ready to move forward and go forward with a bench trial. But the state was not keen on that. And since we were ready to go already a short period of time later, it didn't make sense to really mess with that when we were ready to pick a jury on. It was like a week ahead of time.
Well, they got their bench trial with an instructed verdict.
There was so I think that because of Ronnie's position versus mine, he could probably talk a little bit more freely with what happened, but it was not a directed verdict.
It wasn't for discussion. It was just my commentary. I don't have much to do on the show. JV carries the weight.
Well, we've known that for years. It was an instructed. It was an instructed verdict of acquittal. It was not a directed verdict. How's that?
Okay.
How did you all feel? And I'll go back to Ronnie and then to the judge. Ronnie, how did you feel as far as being safe? Did you feel did you feel compromised in any way? Did you feel that that there were proper barriers in place to protect you, or were you iffy?
We were all spaced far enough apart, I think. Like I even commented that to me, the jury pool, I could have picked it with a checkerboard how diagonally spaced everybody was. Pretty much everyone had masks on. Everyone had face shields on. The judge let us, they let the prosecutor and I, when we were speaking, take our masks off if we wanted to. And I definitely had the judge instruct the panel that he had told me I could before I did. Because the judge, you could barely hear him. When he was done with his part of it, there was someone about 3 rows back leaned forward, and to the judge's question, do you have any questions for me? He said, I could only hear about 3/4 of what you said.
That was Judge Singer picking the jury?
Yes.
Because he's not a quiet man. He projects pretty well.
The problem is he had that face shield on, so he sounds like he's in a barrel. And as soon as he got a 1.5 feet away from that microphone, it was done. The state had a mask on and a face shield, which is even worse. I got up there with nothing, so I could talk. And they didn't see.
What about the jurors? Did they remove their masks?
Oh no, they all had their masks on, their face shields, and then they had to lean down.
Did you feel like you were able to really see how they were reacting to things? And
if you could read body language, yes, but as far as smirking or grimacing or anything like that, you couldn't see it. Especially about
how did you think that? Do you think that were you sitting there sometimes going, I know what they said, but I don't know what they really thought when they said it when you were picking your strikes?
Yeah, I mean, there were. Well, here's the biggest issue: is when the state asks a question and people are popping their hands up. The one I was in, there were poles in the middle. Big.
So you couldn't see who's raising their hand and who's not.
So I couldn't see a group out this way, and I couldn't see a group out that way. When the state was doing their PowerPoint, they had the big projector and screen up. About halfway through their PowerPoint, someone in the panel leaned forward and goes, I can't see any of your screen.
Oh, wow.
So
that's okay when it's the state, but you got to move that screen over when you do yours.
Well, that room's not set up in the same way. It's not, and because of social distance, it's not like you can get up and just walk around and check things out too. So remember that.
So the judge let me kind of meander about inside of the front box because where you stood at our podium, you couldn't see number 1 and you couldn't see number 3 and 4.
You're welcome for the podium, Mr. Yeates.
Thank you. We were going to use a garbage can and a board.
I know. I gave y'all the podium. Y'all needed it more than we did.
Well, we did. Thank you. You had the Rock Auditorium.
So they've set all this up, and there's not even a podium. You were gonna have to use a trash can with a board underneath it.
Yeah, Judge.
This makes me want to flip my iPad off here and just go like, how? Okay, so Judge, do you have any concerns that if a verdict of guilty comes back, that it's going to be something that goes on for 2 or 3 more years in the Court of Appeals on just whether or not the defendant could get a fair trial?
So look, so I'm just going to say, because that's something
I'm not asking you to put you on. I'm just. Are there any
No.
concerns from the bench?
From my perspective, no, and let me explain why. I mean, like, could a scenario happen when could? I mean, I can't say no like a definitive thing because we're lawyers and it's always a it depends answer, right? But I can tell you this, that these plans and the process has been so vetted out that, I mean, it's not like we're just, and I know I'm going to say this, and then
Okay,
Ronnie's
I'm
gonna
sorry, I have
laugh.
to interrupt
Hold
you.
on.
It's been so vetted out, but Ronnie was going to have to turn a trash
Hold
can
on.
upside down and put a piece of wood on top of it because there wasn't another
Why don't-
podium.
Why
How
don't
much
you let me
vetted out and
finish?
planned was this?
Why don't
Let-
you
let
me
the judge finish.
before
Let him-
you
I'm
start
All right.
criticizing
Sorry,
Justin?
I feel a little bit of fire in me about this.
I'm gonna let you finish. What is it, Kanye West? I'm gonna let you finish, but hold on. Look, yes, are there issues? And I was about to say it's not. Ronnie's gonna laugh because he's gonna sit there and be like, "No, it hasn't." Because if I was sitting in y'all's shoes, I would feel the same way. But in my current position, I've seen how much work. Look, we can always get better, and there's always a better way to do it. Should we try to strive for perfection? Yeah, but I don't think it's something that hasn't been worked on extensively, and we're not trying. I mean, that's as good of an answer as I can give you. Justin, criticize it, tear it apart, do
Well,
what you
but
will
we
with
have
it,
a
but
better system. We
Well,
have a
what's
better
that?
system. It's
Well,
at 1201.
well,
It's not the best system, but it's less imperfect than this
Let me-
system. It all happens at 1201, and it happens when time is right. You're talking about 2 defendants who are out on bond, and what I'm hearing are people saying, "I didn't raise an objection," or Ronnie saying, "I raised an objection. The judge overruled it," and I don't hear anything from you, Judge Wright, saying, "No one raised an objection with me." But my question is just, I'm sitting here going, I got 4 clients set for trial who are in custody. None of them are chomping at the bit to go to trial. I'm going to do everything I can, and I'll be probably pretty successful at keeping those from going to trial while things are going to be like this. If I can't see the jury panel and they can't see me, my question is, why?
Hey,
Why
so
now?
Justin,
Why so fast?
when is it going to end to where you're going to be like, you know what, I'm ready to walk in and let's try a case?
I don't know, but they're on bond.
Okay, but answer that question for me, and then when you answer that question,
I
then
left my
I can
crystal
give
ball
you
in the other room. I don't know.
exactly.
But my whole point, but there is no reason why these cases should be going to trial when there are people who are in custody. Those 30 jury panels could have been put together and made a felony trial for somebody who's looking at spending a long time, and they could do this in a large enough room that doesn't have pillars. Like when I went to the Marilyn Manson show and Smashing Pumpkins show there, I didn't pay less for the obstructed view seats. I paid better for the floor seats. That's not a place we should be doing this. We're just where Ronnie's standing. He can't see jury. What'd you say, number 1 and number 3 and 4? So you can see number 2. Well, that's great. But you couldn't see 3/4 of the jury on the first row. Yes, things can be better at 1201 than they are right now. But this, I mean, and I appreciate that people are admitting that, yeah, we can make some improvements, but we're going from, thank God the other podium was available so we didn't have to flip a trash can upside down and put a board on it. I mean,
I want to chime in a little bit for the judge. The jury trial itself, once we got in the courtroom, I could hear people. I know they could hear us because we took our masks off to talk because we were far enough away. Once we got into the courtroom, I didn't really feel an issue other than it's a little harder to see the jury, to see how they're reacting to things, because that's a carryover from the doing voir dire. Voir dire is where I had the issue, and I doubt the judge had the same issues in the pavilion that we had in our hall because his was wide and open. It was atrocious in the hall, and all 3 of them were like that, and I think ours was one of the worst ones of the 3.
you're talking in the hall, like the lack of social distancing and all
No,
that?
I'm talking about
No, he means the hall was one of the 3 rooms.
The
carved
NRG
out.
hall.
Yeah, the
Okay.
big hall where they have this, the walls that are put up, the movable
Sure.
walls to make the rooms. Those places are atrocious, absolutely horrible to pick a jury in. But once we got,
Well, isn't that what trial lawyers say? Jury trials are won and lost in voir dire.
yeah. I mean, that's
the number. That and jury instructions are the number 1 places for reversal.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you build your friends. That's where you build your rapport. You can't kick somebody off if you can't see their face or don't know what they're saying.
Right.
So
Did you seat that jury by yourself, or did you have somebody with you?
no, it was me and my client.
And
Is that
so
how you would try a case under normal conditions, or would you have
No.
another set of eyes?
Not necessarily. I mean, you definitely want somebody sitting with you in that scenario. You definitely want somebody sitting with you there because, especially in the hall or even in the pavilion, they're so spread out. If you ask, like, raise your hand if you're this, and half the panel raise their hand, you can't see them. Exactly.
Were you allowed to have somebody else there? Did you have that option? Because I've heard it's two people at each table: defendant and defense attorney, and then prosecutor and prosecutor.
Oh no,
You
there's
heard
room
wrong,
there.
sir.
Yeah,
I-
there's room there.
I said I heard. What I've heard is wrong.
Where I was sitting, we had 2 8-foot tables, and they had 3 8-foot tables per side in the pavilion. So you got 16 foot or 24 foot. So you could sit 3 or 4 people there.
In the
Even-
pavilion, you could sit 4 people on each side. So, I mean, I don't know, y'all's room was a little different, but for sure in that pavilion, you could fit. I mean, if it was a criminal case, you could fit defendant and 3 attorneys, or 3 other people easily.
Yeah,
6
y'all
feet
have-
apart or on top of each
Yeah.
other?
No.
Okay.
Everybody essentially is in the middle of, like, I call them crawfish tables that we were using in the FLC after Harvey, but
Mhm.
essentially one of those foldable big tables.
Sure.
So I mean, there's plenty of space to fit.
Oh, crawfish!
potentially.
Like you eat the crawfish. Oh, I got you now. I know what you're talking about.
in the
That's a good name for him.
Yeah, in the pavilion, they had 3 8-foot tables per council side. In the hall, we had 2.
Okay.
I thought we had
JV,
4,
you
but
getting
yeah, it
questions
was
on there
spaced
from
out.
Tiffany Hill?
I'm getting Robert Fickman from the HCLA or TCDLA COVID Task Force says HCLA and TCDLA does not promote NRG as safe or constitutionally sound, and we're risking people's lives. And I think that is one of the big issues as to whether or not there's been. Do they come in and like clean everything before the next jury comes in, or is it just reused, or do we know?
No, they come in, they clean the entire space, all the chairs, all the surfaces. They do that. That's why they only seat 1 panel a day in there, so that way they can do that every day. I mean, every day in use.
Sure. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That was a big thing. I wonder, did somebody said, hey, well, they should all come in and then we say shuffle, and then they got to clean it all up again.
Well,
Do
I actually did shuffle my panel. And so the way that worked is, and I don't know if you've been down there to look at it, they had 30 people lined up 6 foot apart down the wall. And I had to walk the whole line to see if I wanted to shuffle because I couldn't see the people at the end. So it's like
Interesting.
it was like I was picking a date for the dance. I walk all the way down, looking at people, and I walk all the way back. And then as soon as I walked in, they come out to shuffle them all. So they just watched me eyeball them and make them move.
What did you find to be the most challenging part, Judge, of at least seating that jury, or at least the whole process? What do you think? I mean, is there something that sticks out?
I think with seating that jury, the biggest issue was some of the stuff that Ronnie was talking, or Mr. Yeates was talking about, is the microphones are not as seamless as they led us to believe. I would say that, I don't know about how your experience was, Mr. Yeates, but sometimes these microphones, you're supposed to be able to lean in, it detects you, and then you can speak. And we had some issues with that. So we had to have a lot of people repeat stuff. I mean, I gave the lawyers, I think, double the time they were asking for in order to pick a jury, just because I figured there was going to be some technical issues. And there were things like one of the attorneys decided to use the microphone. It ran out of batteries. So I grabbed the other microphone. We have these microphone covers that we had on it, wiped the thing down, handed it to him so he could continue his voir dire. There's just stuff like that. I mean, it's a new process. It's not anything I've personally done. I know that some judges have been down there already, but just figuring it out. And I'm sure it's going to be different with every space. So I'm sure if I got put in the hall, I think that's what we're going to call it for this exercise. If I got put one of the hall rooms, it would probably be different. So it's not my nice normal space that I'm used to working in every day. I had to bring stuff like my hand sanitizer, brought some extra wipes. I bought a box of gloves that I found at the store. I mean, just stuff like that, remembering
Yeah.
all that, and the same stuff that you would as an attorney getting ready for trial. You pack your bag and, make sure you have everything and think, oh crap, I need other stuff, and add more stuff to it. And it's the same concept, just, in the middle instead of fighting for one side. The technical stuff I did not anticipate would be as much of a bugaboo. I will tell you this. I mean, as a attorney, I was a defense attorney for a long time, and now a judge for almost 2 years. I don't think our jury was any more or less active than I've seen in the past, even with the technical issues. I think that they talked about as much as they did, maybe a tiny bit less, but I don't think it was so much that everybody's just sitting there like, I don't think that happened. You had your typical talkers that try to burn up all your time and dominate the voir dire, and you had a lot of people that just wanted to sit there and not say anything.
Ronnie,
Next time you got to remember that. You got to remember to bring that box of what is that stuff called? Justice.
Ronnie, 30 seconds. Close us out.
If you're going to pick a jury down there, bring your own projector and screen. Because if the state doesn't bring one and they don't let you use theirs, you can't use a PowerPoint because there's nothing down there for you to use.
That's incredible.
Well, that seems like a really simple thing to fix. Can't they just go unbolt, like, I don't know, one of the 12 televisions that's in the other courtrooms?
Well, they don't let you leave anything down there. So the state set their stuff up, then they had to take it down. You can't leave anything down there.
That's incredible.
You got to come set up in the morning.
All right. Hey, Ronnie, big winner 2020. Judge Wright, thank you
Thanks for coming on.
Yes.
When's your next one, Judge? When's your next trial?
Not this Friday, because that case got dismissed. So next Friday, the 9th.
Is the defendant in custody or on bond?
There's 3 cases I've said. I believe they're all on bond.
Okay.
Can y'all figure out how to Zoom?
We'll have you back on and see if you can make some improvements on any of it.
Yeah. Hey, hey, look, HUCLA says no to NRG trials, and we object. I'm not
I
kidding.
understand the Harris County District Attorney's Office also has some concerns. So, and I can understand why.
Hear any from them. I didn't hear any from them, but formally, who knows? I don't know their position on it.
Are you getting pressure from anybody else in the county to do these trials?
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know, county administrator, whoever's above you. Is there anybody above you that's making you do these trials?
Justin, we're done. We're out. Have we wrapped up, Mark?
Now we're out. Now.